Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the iShine
Hello.
podcast. I'm so excited because y'all I got two of my favorite people on here getting ready to share some amazing information. But before we go into it, I just want to introduce myself. I am Angela A. Love Lewis, the host of the iShine podcast. I have with me my bestie, my buddy, Matthew Santana Jr. And then I
Hey,
also
hey,
have
hey.
the beautiful, the amazing, the fabulous Valerie C. Son. How are you both?
Doing well, doing well. Glad to be
Hey,
here.
I'm good.
Awesome and fantastic.
Yes,
So
yes,
listen,
glad to be here.
great. So we are broadcasting over multiple platforms. So wherever you are seeing us at, please share the broadcast, like it, make sure you make comments, let everybody know because our topic today is really about domestic violence. This is the month that we bring domestic violence awareness. And so we want to just kind of shed a little light about that. We are, of course, iShine Magazine. And so we wanted to kind of talk about it with the last show of the month. And then on Saturday, we're talking about, we actually have a live event that is going to be talking about the survivor soiree, which is talking about breast cancer, because of course that is the month also that we recognize that. So we're trying to be very, community minded and really share some things that will really hopefully help somebody in the journey that maybe they're experiencing or maybe even have experienced to kind of deal with some of those topics. So,
Yeah.
Matthew, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Valerie and let her just share first a little bit about yourself. Tell everybody who you are, Valerie, and what you got going on, ma'am.
Thank you, Angela. I'm so happy to be here. What a blessing. So my name is Valerie C. Thompson. I was created to encourage, inspire, and uplift. I am the creator of Own Your Truth Coaching, wherein I help women dismantle the lies which have kept them from truth. The truth that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, the truth that you were created in the image of God. Now you might be thinking, where do some of these lies come from? The lies that I picked up came from domestic violence, witnessing it as a child, absorbing and observing as a child. And I carried that into my adulthood. So I know part of my purpose is here to speak about domestic violence, how it affects you as a child, how it affects you as an adult. And I'm here to break those generational curses and strongholds. So God has used me speaking. God has used me to share my story in books. And again, like I said, with the coaching, because so many women have unresolved childhood trauma, which turns into adult drama at the hands of domestic violence. So I'm very grateful to be here.
Ooh, that was powerful already in and of itself, that sometimes the childhood trauma can result in adult drama. Y'all better come on and
Yes.
tap in and get somebody on this broadcast because it's about to help free some people, right? Because Valerie didn't said a whole mouthful and all I told her to do was
Yes.
introduce herself. Come on. Yes, I love that. Matthew, for those who don't know you, can you introduce yourself too, please, sir?
All right, I'm Matthew Santana Jr. I am the owner and founder of Infinite Power Project. While I help other women that's been through domestic violence and sexual assault empower themselves, show them that they can make it, that tell them that they are not their past, they're not their current situation, that they have a brighter future ahead of them. They only got one life to live, so live their life for them. So I help women on a day-to-day basis with their struggles of trying to get out of those toxic and domestic violence relationships, trying to heal them and empower themselves and get them to where they need to be in this life. Not what somebody told them, that they're not beautiful, they're not bold enough, they're not strong enough. So I help them every day on with my coaching of transitional empowerment. So I'm empowering you and get you on this journey to tranquility of freeing your mind, your body, and soul, and getting you to where you need to be in this life to live your life for you and not nobody else.
Come on, drop the mic, living for you and not somebody else. Love that. Let me go ahead and we ain't paying the bills, but we're gonna pay the bills. Kelly A. Bowen says hello. Thank you so much, man. We are on part of the CEO District platform. Kelly is the founder of the CEO District. Thank you so much for graciously allowing us to be a part of your platform, ma'am. And then Lakeisha says hello from Memphis, Tennessee. Tennessee in the house, always represented. Y'all know that's my state, so gots to shout out Tennessee. And then Tab giving us hearts and love and prayers. Thank you so much, Tab. We appreciate you tuning in. So listen, this topic, you guys know, is ultra important. It is very powerful. It is very needed. And so when we talk about domestic violence, when we talk about people who have dealt with, everything that comes with that. Like Valerie said, let's go back to the beginning, because when you are exposed to it at a young age, let's talk about how that impacts people going forward into adulthood.
It's you don't know what you don't know until you know it, right? So I was that child, again, looking at it through the eyes of an innocent child and watching my parents. I didn't know that I was taking in rage. I didn't know that everything that I observed would turn into low self-esteem, low self-worth, low self-value. You don't know what you don't know until you know it. So I remember some of the relationships that I got in as a teenager. I didn't say it was domestic violence, but they weren't the best. They were toxic. I remember feeling as if, when someone broke up with me, it was the end of the world, right? But that speaks to my low self-worth. That speaks to the low self-esteem. And so as a child, when your parents argue and fight and you're looking at it and nobody's talking to you about it, you just carry that and you take it into your adulthood. So you might as well have a sign that says, "Hi, I want to be in a domestic violence relationship." And that's literally, the route I went, and people don't talk about it.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it is when you look at statistics, domestic violence is so prevalent. And with that being said, you would think there would be more conversations. And although you have a whole month, the month of October, that's dedicated towards domestic violence awareness, still it does not prevent it. So I kind of sort of want to go into how things have really even maybe, do you feel like COVID has caused it to be more people who experience it?
I do.
You do? You saying
they,
yes?
They do, because they're trapped. They can't get out.
See, we as a matter of fact, on the previous one, we just had a iShine broadcast. We did a special edition with Francesca Felder. She's the CEO and founder of Swag Her magazine and media. And so she made a comment, and Valerie happened to be on the broadcast as well. But we talked a little bit about domestic violence then, and saying that, a lot of times people are so quick to talk about domestic violence and you just leave, get out of there. But, she shared that that's not always easy to do. A lot of times, and Matthew's put up a post, on average, a woman will leave an abusive relationship 7 times before she leaves for good. And that's like, that's mind blowing. To hear that, because the first thing is that instinctively get out of there. You don't want somebody to deal with it, or why would you stay? But as she said in her commentary, a lot of times you have to weigh out different things, and it's not just the abuse, but if you have children involved, you have to think about planning a way of escape. It's not just to get up and take off. You have to take some time and be strategic and intentional. And for a lot of people who don't understand that, when you're in the situation, that is really your reality. Valerie, do you want to speak a little bit more about that piece?
Look, I wanted to raise both hands when Matthew put that up, because that's my truth. That's my truth. I literally counted the times that I left, and I left 7 times, because first of all, you're developing the traumatic bonding. So you're looking at, well, he or she was nice for this period of time, and that's what I like. That's what I'm attracted to. But then you start seeing that it's like a roller coaster. It's up and down. And yeah, I had children. There were finances involved. You think about the stuff that you've established with this person. So it's not just get up and go. When you finally get that nerve up and you get that burst of energy, because it's fight or flight, to leave, then you don't know what to do, because now the person, the perpetrator, they're gonna be reaching out to you, and you feel like you have to go back. So that's what I did, because that's what I knew. And guess what? My childhood, that's what my mother did. She always went back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You leave and you go. That's what you do. And it was one day God showed me, like, okay, look, you're reliving your childhood. But I knew one thing: every time I left, I grew in power every time. And it wasn't until the last time that God actually literally gave me a strategic plan, and I was intentional about it. And I prophesized, I wrote it out in a book, Finally Free. You
That's
have to
powerful.
know that you have to break the cycle.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, and Matthew, I know you're getting ready to give a point, but for so many people, and Tanya, hey lady, thanks so much for joining us. For so many people, if that's all and it's kind of like I guess a hot and cold type of relationship. 1 minute they love you, 1 minute they put it back on you. Well, you made me do that, and so you're in between being a victim and thinking that, I just want somebody to love me. So for a lot of people, I guess that is what really keeps them from leaving and then coming back, because you feel that, person who's unstable, because in their mind they love you, but it's something inside of them. So for most victims, not realizing it's not you, it's really that person that has issues that need to be dealt with, but they put their problems and their issues on you to make you think that it's all about you and it's your fault some way. So Matthew, I know you've got statistics to kind of back that up.
Yeah.
So yes, what he says, every 9 seconds in the U.S., a woman is assaulted or beaten. That's every 9 seconds. So if you think about that, that time period is so minute in the scheme of things, to think that somebody is going through right now within this 60-minute broadcast, how many women are either being punched, kicked, hit, something thrown at them, pulled, in some kind of way, in terror, because somebody is actually putting them in a domestic violence situation. And the thing about it is, it's even more intense because it's with somebody that you know. Matthew, what are
and
some
if
of
I
the
can,
things that you've learned? Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead, Valerie.
Yeah, Valerie.
It was I just wanted to really express that yeah, it's the physical, but the verbal and the emotional is it's so real. That's really that's what I experienced: more verbal, more emotional, the psychological. That keeps you stuck. And people don't talk about it because it's so uncomfortable, and it's really hard to identify, because you think it's normal because it's familiar to you, but it's just as bad as the physical.
I'm so glad you shared that point. Matthew put on the screen, domestic violence is not only physical violence. Domestic violence is any behavior. Again, any behavior, the purpose of which is to gain power and control over a spouse, partner, girl or boyfriend, or intimate family member. And that's so important that you say that, because bottom line, when somebody's physically abusing you, when you can go show that, you've got a black eye or a broke arm, when you can go show those things, you can go to the police and put out a restraining order or some things like that may help you get some relief. When somebody is mentally and emotionally abusing you, it's hard to go out and get help for that. It's harder to overcome when somebody beats that in your head that you're not worthy. Nobody's going to want to be with you. All of those things. You can't make it without me. You need me. Those types of things that control you mentally and emotionally are definitely much harder to break out of, because where do you go?
Because you start to believe in that. You start to believe every word that they say is true. Like they tell you you're not good enough for years. They tell you that nobody wants you. You're gonna start believing that you're not worthy, that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough. Nobody's gonna want you. You're gonna think of yourself low and you belong in the gutter. And they're gonna have you wrapped around their little finger. You're gonna do everything that they tell you to do.
That's true. That's true. Because it's in the mind. It's in the mind.
Yes, and when it's in the mind, I'm telling you, it is so much harder to overcome. Conditioning, when you think about it, it's really like when you think of conditioning, you think of, even with animals, how they will condition them to, like if you want a snack or whatever, but to kind of train them, it's like putting you into something and shocking you so that you won't go beyond this barrier, or that you won't touch the food until it's ready. But that's how they use abuse or some type of, physical trauma or some type of mental thing, to where even when they remove the blockage, the animal will no longer go past a certain point, because in their head, they're expecting to be shocked, or they're expecting some kind of bad behavior.
Right.
And so they just stop just short of where that invisible barrier is, even when it's no longer there. And so that conditioning for humans is there as well. When you have someone who consistently tells you something that over and over again, you start to believe exactly what they're saying, even if other people tell you that's not the case.
They break you down mentally
because
first,
it's already
and they get to your emotions, and then they start with the physical.
It's so many people, and for those who are watching, and I know for some people it may be a really hard subject to deal with, because of course, especially if you're in it, but for people who have gotten out of it, to share your testimony, because Valerie, I know that, even currently now, you're in the process of writing an anthology that talks about, from trauma to drama to truth. Can you share a little bit about why you wanted to put that type of book out there?
Because people, and thank you, Angela. People, that's just it. People don't want to talk about it, right? People want to keep it undercover. But the reality is, if we don't deal with what we've been through and heal, we can never make it to the other side. Like, we all were created for a purpose, right? And so that's my thing. I'm praying that people understand that we've all been through some trauma, right? And if you don't deal with that trauma, it turns into drama. People always want to know, why am I going through this? Why do I have this kind of revolving relationship or situationship? How come, we can't get on the same page? And when you ask the questions, you understand, hey, this person has experienced domestic violence at some point or something, And so let's deal with it. Let's talk about it. Let's heal so that we can make it to the other side. And the other side, to me, is understanding who and whose you are. When you come to the other side, it's time to rise and walk in your king and queen status, because there's so much more. Everything we go through, that pain, turn that pain into purpose. That's why we're here. And so for me, I went through what I went through, but guess what? God showed me how to love myself just a little more. And when I started loving myself, I was able to rise. I was able to stand in my truth. And I want people to experience that, because that's what it's about. And God's not done with me. God's not done with any of us. While we're here, there's so much to do, so much to learn. So that's my story for that. From trauma and drama to truth. What is your truth? Why are you here?
That's great. That's great. It's really powerful. Like you say, you're turning your pain into purpose, but understanding that no matter what you went through, it does not define you. Whatever you have went through, you're not. I think Cynthia Marie was on here a couple of weeks ago, and her phrase was, "You don't have to stay there." Just because someone has, because sometimes when people get away, they still are stuck in that mental abusive status. They're still thinking less of themselves. Still, are challenged with having confidence and low self-esteem and low self-worth. But again, like she said, you don't have to stay there. You have to switch the situation to understand, like you said, whose you are. When you believe that you're a queen, when you know and believe that you're a queen or a king, and let's talk about that. When you talk about domestic violence situations, typically it's female oriented. we're always talking about the women who are going through domestic violence, but they're just a lot of men who deal with it as well, so it's not just a one gender thing. And we have to be very mindful to understand some men are out here getting abused, going through the drama and the trauma, just like women are. Matthew, from a perspective of, because I know you deal with a lot of cases, how are the men who come to you about these situations, how are they expressing themselves as it compares to how women express themselves? Were you able to hear the question, Matthew?
Can you hear me?
Now we can, yes.
Okay. Hold on, I can't. Okay, go ahead.
I was asking, you deal with a lot of domestic violence, individuals. What's the difference in how men approach you and talk to you about their circumstances compared to how women do?
It's a lot of men that's out there that's really stuck in what they're going through. They are really hurting and they don't get outlet to talk about it, because men shouldn't talk about their feelings. Men shouldn't, speak up about what they're going through, or the pain, or the confusion, or anything that they're going through towards feelings at all. So they're, stuck in their bubble. Like, I can't talk to nobody about my feelings. I'm gonna be, considered less of a man if I do. Like, what, they don't have an outlet to reach out to people. So a lot of men start to bottle a lot of that up. And once they ready to release, it's going to be a lot of rage, because they weren't able to release and let those feelings out. So it is a lot of men that's out there hurting that can't speak to no one, because they're going to be considered less of a man if they do. But let me tell you, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to share your feelings. It's okay to cry. Let it out. Because once you become whole, once you become free, you don't got to look back and say, I was a victim. You're no longer a victim. You are a survivor. You made it through some stuff that people are going through right now, that they struggling with every day, but you made it out. I made it out. Valerie made it out. There's still people that made it out, but they won't speak on it. They still, even though they survived the domestic violence, they still stuck.
Yeah.
They're not healed. They still are trapped. You have to speak up. You have to find your voice and release those chains and be free. You are no longer a victim. You are a survivor of domestic violence. Everything you went through, you have a purpose in this life. It's only for a moment. You got to keep on going. I know that sometimes you might get depressed. Okay, sit for a while, but don't dwell in it. If you see somebody that's going through domestic violence, or you know the warning signs, speak up for them. Get them help. Get yourself some help. Speak up and know that you are worthy. You were put here for a purpose. Even though I went through domestic violence, Valerie went through domestic violence, we didn't let that stop us. It was a barrier at first, but we jumped over that fence. We jumped over that barrier and made it through. We didn't go through what we went through for us. We went through it for somebody else, so we can help somebody else. My story is not your story, but I made it through. You can make it through too. All you have to do, believe in yourself. Know that you are worthy and you can do it. It may hurt. You may miss them. Let it go and put it behind you. Heal from the past and that trauma and keep on going.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And I'm going to just read a couple of statistics. It says women ages 18 to 24 and 25 to 34 generally experience the highest rates of intimate partner violence. So that's 18 to 24 and 25 to 34. So within those age brackets, they are the ones who experience the highest rates. Now it goes on to say that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner. This includes a range of behaviors, including slapping, shoving, pushing, and in some cases might not be considered domestic violence. 1 in 7 women and 1 in 25 men have been injured by an intimate partner. So when you look at statistics like that, that lets you know that there, I mean, it's very prevalent. It's not, you know, people tend to think that it's not that many people because maybe you don't see it. But Matthew, you mentioned a moment ago about the signs. So what are some signs that can tell people someone may be experiencing domestic violence in their household?
Wearing sunglasses when the sun's not even out. Wearing long sleeves on a hot day. Like a lot of the small things that you really don't pay attention to. Like if they're jittery or they're always, you know, looking at their phone or they feel frantic or nervous, and you know, got to be somewhere at a certain time. So a lot of those different signs that you can notice. And I know I get a lot of questions from people, you know, why victims stay with their abusers. It's, you know, the confusion, the false hope, the fear, the lack of self-esteem, the self-doubt, lack of support, or religious beliefs. Like it's a lot of people that get stuck. They don't know.
That's Valerie, if you want to go on, I'm going to just let's see. It says, according to data published by the city of Philadelphia, the number of shooting victims has increased approximately 7% during the period of April 1st, 2020 to April the 15th, 2020, compared to the same time last year. So that was attributed to domestic violence. When they talk about some of the states with the highest rates of domestic violence, you look at Oklahoma, Kentucky, Iowa, North Carolina, Nevada, Alaska, Washington, and Arizona. So surprisingly, I would not even think of some of those states as being ones that would have high rates of domestic violence. But when you think about it, domestic violence is not a respect of persons. It can be, you know, any location, any area, you know, it's just that unfortunately people experience it even when you don't realize it. And so Valerie, what else did you want to share about it? I know that this is just a topic very near and dear to your heart.
Right. And as you said, it doesn't matter what socioeconomic background, it's all over. But I think because it makes people so uncomfortable, people don't want to talk about it. And let me tell you, as you were talking, as Matthew was talking about, you know, even people when they leave, you go back because it's familiar. It's what you know. We've heard people say, I know that crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that person. I know that crazy. So I don't have enough faith that I can get anything better. So I'm a settle. And what God showed me was it's like a drug, right? So I've never been addicted to drugs, but somebody's addicted to drugs. You know that drug not good for you, but guess what? I'm searching and I'm looking for that drug because when I get that drug, it's going to make me feel good for a little while. And you keep going back and you keep going back. Now, we were fortunate enough to come out and not get killed, right? But there are some people that are in it. Now, I'm going to say this because I never believed that I was going to die. Now, I'll tell you what I did believe. I believed that I was going to be the one that was going to kill. Because I had so much rage in me. Because I was the physical, I was the aggressor physically. So I had to pray for God to take the rage out of my heart. So the whole part about healing, it's so many different layers because yes, you can leave that person and you may be gone for 2 or 3 years, but it doesn't mean, yes, that they're not in your mind. It doesn't mean that you're not thinking about going back. So you have to take the time to heal. And I'm speaking from my experience. There are so many levels. And then you take the fact that I grew up in it. That's what I know. That's my whole life. But guess what? I prayed for God to take those familiar things away. And I prayed over my life. I'm not dying. I am going to live. My children are not going to die. My grandchildren are not going to die at the hands of domestic violence. You have to pray over yourself and believe it and take the time to heal. And not getting into another relationship for a minute, because that's what we do too. Get into another one and wonder why it's not working.
And I'm glad, and I'm glad you said that piece of it. Matthew, like, it's patterns, you know, it's actually patterns of behavior. And so when you're not healing, then of course you're going to gravitate towards what's familiar, meaning that, and again, recognize patterns, seek help. So I'm going to share what I see here as warning signs of an abusive person. Number one, jealousy and possessiveness. Sometimes, I guess as women or men, you tend to think, oh, it's cute when they show a little jealousy, or, just possessive, well, they just love me, but those are warning signs. And for so many humans, you overlook, you see, if you were driving down the street and the light was turning red, you won't keep going through it because you know that it could be a fatal catastrophe if somebody rams into you. It could kill you. But we don't have the same sense of awareness when it comes to seeing red flags and signs in similar type of other situations like this. So jealousy and possessiveness, that's one of the warning signs. Another thing is controlling behavior. If you are with somebody who always has to control you, always wants to make sure, that you, they're in control of the situation of who you see or where you go or what you're doing or how you respond, that's a problem that you may need to look into. Unrealistic expectations. That's another thing to look at from an abusive person. They can't see things like an ordinary person sees it. If you say, well, I got off work and I stopped at the store and had a conversation and came home, and there's like, well, no, you should have been home in 15 minutes. And you're like, but it's a 30-minute drive. It's unrealistic. When they start saying things that are crazy, or they're saying that, well, you should have been home, an hour ago, and you were only 10 minutes late. That's unrealistic. You got to be mindful of that. And then too, someone who blames others for their problems. That's another sign of somebody who is displays abusive behavior. Not only that, hypersensitivity. When somebody is very sensitive, no matter what you say, everything is like they're about to blow up because of anything that you say. The least little thing, they're sensitive. If you say, well, did you put some salt in here? Oh, so you know what I'm saying? And they just snap. That's a problem. And so you don't think about it, but I mean, when you got somebody who is always on 10 about they had 9.99, you just look and they're like, oh, so what's wrong with you? That is signs of an abusive relationship, abusive person, and that's an indication that you need to get away from them before the situation escalates. However, most people wind up staying because you don't feel it's all that. Oh, it's not so bad. Or sometimes, you try to justify instead of understanding the ramifications that will happen dealing with somebody. Matthew, is there anything that you can add to that?
It's a lot of different other signs that, people can refer to. So if your partner destroys your personal property, or if they isolate you or try to move you away from your friends and family, they make you feel guilty about your own decisions. So they have it they put it in your mind that so you to feel that way or guilty about what you think. If they physically attack you, shoving, hitting you, or choking you, or they blaming you for their own behavior. Oh, you made me do this. It's your fault. And you starting to think like, okay, what did I really do to make you do that? Oh, it really is my fault. Now I can't even say or do these certain things because that's how you're going to react if I do.
Exactly. I even see one that says doesn't respect your property or privacy. If you got somebody who constantly wants to go through your phone or, all of those things like that they don't respect your privacy, that's a problem. And so I think for a lot of people, as you're in those type of situations, you start to become desensitized. So even when somebody does something, it's kind of sort of like the boy who cried wolf. You're thinking like, yeah, okay, yeah, you keep threatening me, but you're not going to really kill me until it happens. Like you said, Valerie, you didn't think anybody was going to kill you, but who's to say had you stayed another 30, 60 days, another year, that may not have happened? Because sometimes it's a trigger that escalates it beyond, what maybe you've been used to them doing. So,
absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say you're right. And the other thing I want to add to that is when you're in something and you feel like you're walking on eggshells. Like I felt like I was walking on eggshells. Should I say this? Should I say that? that. Ooh, I better not. And when there's public humility, when they are telling you off and going off in public, that is disrespectful. Or when you say, this is how I feel about something, and pretty much they sweep it under the rug. Oh, that wasn't a big deal. And then it becomes like a codependent relationship, you know, and it's just toxic all the way around. And you don't trust yourself. You don't trust your intuition, which you did see those red flags from the beginning, like you said, but you don't trust yourself. It's so much, and you end up thinking you're crazy.
Yeah.
I just want to encourage people that are feeling that way to know that they're not crazy.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, at the end of the day, it's really important for you to trust your gut, to trust your own instincts.
Yeah.
I believe that we have all been born to be equipped with a sixth sense, or, you know, something just doesn't feel right. And a lot of times we push past it, when in actuality, we were given that to save us from a lot of situations. And so it's time where you got to start paying attention to how you feel. And y'all know what they say about energy. You can tell a person's energy. And when it doesn't feel good, that means you need to get away. Don't keep trying to stay around and thinking that you're going to change them. It's time for you to move on. And so, I know that we're not going, you know, again, we're, you know, if you're just joining us or catch the replay, we're talking about, you know, this is Domestic Violence Month, the month of October. And last month, you know, was suicide prevention and awareness. And so it's so related that a lot of times people who are in domestic violence situations, if you're not the victim of domestic violence, sometimes you take your own life because you just can't take being in this situation. And so, you know, it's just unfortunate that people put you in that position, you know, to have to deal with that. But Valerie, I know that, you know, we're getting ready to wrap up, but do you have any last words that you want to leave with anyone as it pertains to being in those type of situations, and maybe how you can transition to being in a better place?
Thank you. I want to encourage anyone that's in it to know that there is something better for you. Practice visualization. I always say, like, I had to see what I didn't see. I journal a lot. So I encourage people to journal. You might be here and you don't want to be here, but write that vision, make it plain, and tell God where you want to be. And believe it. And it may not happen the way that you think it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. I literally journaled. That was my therapy. I journaled. And I kept journaling until the vision that I had in my head came to pass, until it manifested. So I just want to encourage people to, like, you have to really create the life that you desire, and know that fear does not overrule faith. Faith overrules fear.
Come on, Valerie. Fear does not overrule faith. Faith overrules fear. Somebody needs to put that on your wall. Write that down. Look at it every day until you become strong enough to believe that fact. Because right now, fear may be what you feel all the time. But if you can understand and believe that faith overrules fear, that's when you'll be strong enough to be able to get out of a situation. So Valerie, thank you so much for sharing that. I definitely appreciate it. Matthew, is there anything that you want to add before we close out the broadcast?
I just want to let everybody know that if you are currently going through domestic violence, if you're currently hurting, here is the National Domestic Violence Hotline that you can call. It's 24/7. It's private. None of your information will be shared. I also have tons of other resources and all of the books I wrote. Evolution of a Queen, A Woman of Color, about a young lady that went through domestic violence and how she got out of that. There's tons of resources in this book for you as well as you follow her on her journey. I also have a journal for the same book that helps you heal and empower yourself with affirmations every day, 365 days. For the whole year, that you're encouraging yourself, giving you motivation to believe in yourself. And even when you get out safely, you are a survivor. You are no longer a victim. Rebirth of a woman. You are being reborn. You were trapped in that cocoon. You are now a butterfly. You can make it out alive. Just trust the process and keep on going. There's resources in this book for you as well. The healing process of surviving after a domestic violence relationship, how to begin anew and find yourself again before you go and hop into another relationship. Know the signs, know who you are, investigate this next person. It's all about healing and becoming ourselves and living for ourselves.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. Thank you all both
Yes.
for being here. I think this is just a amazing way to end the month, as we bring additional awareness to domestic violence. I know that it's a topic, like you say, a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but the more light you shine on something, the more awareness you bring to something, the less it will have power over you. And again, like Valerie said, your faith can overcome your fear. So if you just stand strong and then heal, when you get in situations like this, number one, pay attention to the the red flags. The abusive signs are there. And if you pay attention, make the decision to choose you first, and sometimes love, I understand, you get in situations and you love somebody, but choose you first. And that will help, for you to make decisions that are going to get you out of it. But if you happen to be in there and you need to, and you are able to get away before you go somewhere else, take the time to heal. Take the time to get yourself together, to prioritize you. Because when you do that, that's going to help you to be stronger so that you won't get back into the same situation. Because like Matthew said, what is 7 times sometimes when you're going through before you actually can break away. So let's just, be prayerful for people who are fighting this demon, because it is something that gets on you and it's hard to break away. But again, Valerie, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, be on the lookout. Valerie's going to release her anthology with a few other ladies they're talking about, and Matthew as well will be in there sharing stories, but it's from trauma and drama to truth. Be on the lookout for that. Also, Valerie does a lot of work with, talking about domestic violence. So she's a speaker. She's open. If anybody wants her on the podcast or some of the other shows, please reach out to her. Valerie, can you share how they can connect with you, please?
Yes. They can connect with me at www.valeriecthompson.com. You can follow me on social media, Valerie C. Thompson, or you can email me at ownyourtruthval@gmail.com. Thank you.
You are so welcome. You are so welcome. Matthew, if you want to share how they can connect with you if they are in an abusive situation and need some assistance in getting out.
You can reach me www.infinitepowerproject.com, the Facebook group infinitepowerproject.com, and through any of my other resources or pages. No matter what I'm doing, I am spreading awareness to stop domestic violence and sexual assault against men, women, and children. It's time for us to all break free and heal and start living the lives that was meant for us.
Awesome. Well, until then, everyone, thank you so much for being a part of the iShine podcast. We are wanting to, of course, send prayers out to those who are currently in domestic violence situations and to those who've lost their lives. Again, you guys be blessed and be mindful and aware, and y'all take care. Bye.
Bye.